Be Hard to Kill, Relentless, No Compromise seminar. So myself, Kris Gethin, and then Michael Johansson, who's running a few minutes behind, but he'll be here shortly. So we're going to talk to you guys about all kinds of good stuff today, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. At the conclusion of, after I speak, Kris and MJ speak, then open up for questions, and don't be afraid to ask questions. No question is stupid. Don't usually takes that first person to break the ice, and then the floodgates open and everybody starts talking. So we have between us, we probably have over 100 years of experience.
I'm not that old, mate.
Yeah, so you're pretty old.
Yeah,
so,
I'm pretty old. Yeah, I'm making involuntary noises now.
So he does this because it's hard to gray.
Yeah, you got that right. Well, at least I can do it.
I know, right? So anyway, I'm gonna hand over to Kris and let you get it started.
All right. Thank you, Branch. Appreciate you all giving up your Sunday to give us your time here today. Hopefully, you'll be able to leave here with some value of not just some form of education, because I don't want you just to be students learning, but application. That's the most important thing here, is applying what we tell you. Of course, there's going to be things that you may relate to what I speak or what Branch speaks to you. There's different ways of skinning a cat or reaching Everest. You just got to navigate and put the chapters in your book in order for you to scratch that itch, reach that mountaintop, okay, whatever you want to achieve in your life. Now, when I spoke to Branch and Michael about putting together this seminar, I was thinking, okay, be harder to kill. What are the things that I like to live by that have helped me over the years to kind of condition my resolve to be harder to kill? And then I was looking at, what Branch lives by, how he stands up and being relentless. And then the no compromises attitude from Michael. And I thought, there's a lot of synergies here. We need to do this together. And this is the thing that I love about Branch, about Michael's like, hey, do you want to do this? It's like, yeah, no questions, no thinking about it. Let's do it. So, hopefully you'll get value of what we tell you today. So just a little bit about my background. Obviously the weird accent comes from Wales, but I come from a very uneducated background. I sucked at school. I hated school. All of my reports said Kris is easily distracted, and, I use that to my advantage now, because I try to read several books at a time, because my distraction takes me away from one book. I start to lose concentration. So I use that to my strength. So it's very important that you recognize your weaknesses. Okay. You either work on those weaknesses or you delegate them out. For instance, my weakness is distraction. So I switch off all alerts on my phone, on my computer, because I could get distracted by that. But there's other things that, I just know that is a weakness of mine that I don't necessarily want to turn into a weapon. So that will be something that gets delegated out. However, what I find is I tend to regress a lot if I seek comfort. Of course, it's okay to have a little bit of comfort in your life, but if you are chasing comfort all the time, which our society is becoming more and more accustomed to, then you're going to regress. You look, we've got Netflix, we've got Amazon shopping, we got Uber Eats, we got air conditioning, we've got all these things. So what do? We become conditioned to chasing comfort. We go to the checkout aisle. We feel good about ourselves when we get a little bit of chocolate because we're feeling emotionally charged or whatever, but that is very, very short-lived. So what can you do to condition your resolve to be harder to kill? So I think having your pivotal foot in the gym is perfect for that, because you have repetition, you're doing sets, you're doing reps, you're living your life the same day as you did before, but you're trying to advance and push yourself forward. So if you have a career that you want to succeed in, then there's going to be a lot of repetitiveness. You're going to be doing shit on days that you don't want to do it. Much like when you go into the gym. Like when Branch is getting ready for the Arnold or the Olympia, I'm sure there was days where you're like, you know what? This injury is going to hold me back, but I'm not going to allow it to hold me back because of my mental resilience. And I'm going to go in there and push it even harder than I did the day before, or smarter with it. Like I remember it was at the Olympia, Bob Ciccarello was there with the mic. He interviewed you and you just torn your quad and you said, I'll be back at the Arnold. Was it 7 months later, 6 months later? 6 months later, and said, I'm going to win that show. I think everybody in that auditorium, other than, say, Brian Dobson and Trish, probably wrote that off. You know? Branch didn't. Because a lot of people are in there thinking, this guy is going to be lucky to even stand on stage. What did he do? He came back and he won that show. That goes to show that, hey, we've all got arms, we've all got legs, we all have something here that we can control. Unfortunately, the majority of us allow ourselves to get controlled by our environment. You think about your bodies, your physicality. You are what you eat. You eat shit, you're going to look like shit. You are what you eat. So the thoughts that you put into your head becomes your reality. So you can have all these thoughts that create your characteristics, but if you aren't having the right thoughts now, you need to do things on a daily basis to retrain your neuro pathways to create new characteristics, new personalities and attitudes towards what you want to achieve. You think negative, you're going to produce negative actions. You're not going to have positivity into your universe. You're not going to create what you want to achieve. And that's what you've got to do. Like a lot of things that I've done in the past is because I know I'm starting to weaken. Okay, so bodybuilding is perfect for that. It keeps me grounded. It allows me to condition myself. But sometimes I'm like, okay, my identity is being I identify myself as a bodybuilder here, but I'm starting to weaken. So what am I going to do? So I'll do something like an Ironman, an ultramarathon, a Spartan. I just recently went on a silent retreat because meditation on a daily basis wasn't enough. I was starting to get distracted. I was starting to regress. So I went on a friggin' 10-day silent retreat, and that was one of the hardest things that I'd ever done because we're always stimulated by music, by sound, by noise, by eye contact, conversation, emails, whatever. So we have that sensory overload of dopamine, which can make us a bit dumb. So when you clear yourself of all of those sensory overloads, now we're more in touch with our own senses. You know? Do you want to add to that, Branch? Michael, what's up, brother?
What's up, MJ?
Fashionably late.
So you guys know Michael Johansson. He's the man, the brains, and the motor, the engine behind Gasp and Better Bodies and Destination. So thank you for being here. He'll speak in a minute and share his input on No Compromise. So first I'll ask you guys, what does relentless mean to you guys? How would you define relentless? Anybody?
Not stopping until the job is done.
Don't quit. Whatever it takes. I mean, just no excuses. I mean, relentless. Just
Never give up. That's how I would define it. So I'll give you a little history of where I came from, and that way you can understand my attitude and the whole relentless attitude I've had. So I grew up in a cattle ranch in West Texas, and I moved to the Fort Worth area when I was 14 years old. So growing up where I grew up, there was nothing to do. So I was a bull rider. I was learning how to ride bulls and being a cowboy because the two things to do where I grew up, you could hunt and you could drink beer. That's about it. I went to a school that we barely had enough kids to have a football team, and the two best looking girls in my school were my cousins. So we moved to Fort Worth. It was opened my eyes to a lot of things, coming from a small town like that. And I used to sneak into the back door of this gym. My buddy had a membership at this local gym, and he'd open the back door. I'd slip in the back and work out because I knew if I was going to have a chance of making a football team, I was going to have to get a little bigger, get stronger, and have a chance at making the team, because back then there were no participation awards. You made the team or you got cut. So I wanted to make the team. So met a bodybuilder there, and guy was huge, probably 280-pound guy. I'd never seen a bodybuilder before, seen a couple of magazines, and he kind of took me in his wing, started showing me how to train properly. He said, "Kid, you're gonna hurt yourself once you do it like this," because we'd go in and work out. We tried to do every machine in the gym. We'd be there for like 3 hours. We didn't know what we're doing. We just thought, okay, let's just lift weights, right? No reason or theory or rhyme behind it, just lift. So there's no lack of motivation. We just didn't have any knowledge and didn't know what we were doing. So we just lifted weights. And he kind of just put us on a little program and started showing us how to do it. Well, I really took to it. And he convinced me that next summer to go to a bodybuilding show and check it out. And he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Yeah, I could do that." They had the junior division. So this guy, he said, "We're going to take you to a real gym." I said, "Well, where are we at right now?" He goes, "Man, this is a health club. It's not a real gym." So that Monday morning, I met him. He took me across town to Arlington. We walked into this gym, and he said, "Hey, this is this kid I was telling you about. This is the owner. Owner's name was Brian, and He said, let me look at you. I had a few poses, and I said, hey, I want to do this show in the summer. I said, I have no money, but I said, I'll clean the place up, take the trash out in exchange for letting me train here, for this show for the summer. And he said, I'll tell you what, kid. He goes, you represent the gym, and you win, you don't have to pay. He goes, if you lose, you have to work it off. Well, that was 30 years ago. I still haven't paid. This gym was Metroflex Gym. The owner's name was Brian Dobson. And this guy who brought me over there, it was Ronnie Coleman's workout partner. So that's who I trained with for my first show. Ronnie wasn't pro yet. He was a cop in Arlington, an amateur. And so I trained with him, and I think I threw up like every day for like the first month. And they kicked my ass every way you could think of. I just kept coming back. So I guess you could say I was relentless, right? Because no matter what they threw at me, I just did it. And I'd go throw up, come right back, and do my set. And I think I asked a question one day about something. I thought something was stupid. And I got backhanded literally across the face. They told me, he said, kid, shut the fuck up. Don't ask no questions and do what we do. He goes, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means you should listen twice as much as you speak. And you might learn something. So, and I did. And 3 months later, I won my show. And I kept on winning. And so that's how I started. That's where I came from. Most kids getting backhanded across the face, they'd probably cry and leave the gym. But I was dumb enough to stay there and keep getting beat and throwing up. But, after you get your butt kicked enough times, you stop getting your butt kicked, and then you start handing out a few butt whoopings. And then before long, you start moving up in the ranks, and you get stronger and you get bigger. And I asked Ronnie years later, I said, why'd you let me train with you back then? I said, you guys were, killing me. I couldn't push you. He said, man, you outworked all the other guys in the gym, the grown men. He goes, we knew if you kept coming, you'd get big and strong. He goes, you did. And so it's just being relentless. You just don't give up, right? Sometimes it's not the biggest, strongest, fastest, smartest guy who wins. It's that guy who just won't give up, just keeps moving forward. We all get knocked down. We all have setbacks. It's those ones that don't give up and just keep coming and coming and coming. That's the ones we call champions. That's how champions are made. Everybody has setbacks. And, so I learned that early on in my career. Just don't give up. I learned I could beat guys that were more talented than me, that were better than me, physically, if I just wouldn't give up and I could outwork them. And I also learned not to focus on things I couldn't control. I didn't worry about who was in the show or how they looked or anything like that. I focused on me. I focused on my training, my diet, my nutrition, my posing, my tan, all these things that I could control. And by doing that and being the best in all those areas that I could possibly be, I moved up. And I did a lot more winning than I did losing. And that's just being relentless in your pursuit of perfection. To steal a tagline from Lexus back in the day. So, but it's true. If you have this, I had this image in my head that I was trying to achieve. I don't think I ever got there, because I think if I would have ever reached my vision of how I wanted to look, I would have probably been done. Because then, what are you going to do then, right? You made it. So I don't think I know I never got to reach that vision. I got close, but I'd win a big show. I'd celebrate that night. The next day, I was focused on the next thing. So I never really took time to take it in, because I was so motivated and so focused looking ahead. I never looked back over my shoulder. I never looked behind me. I just looked forward the whole time. It wasn't until after I retired that I looked back and was like, I did okay. But at the time, I would never allow myself that bit of self-compliment, I guess. So that's what relentless is. So I think, like Kris said, be hard to kill, no compromise, relentless. I think all those things tie in together. In a lot of ways, they're one and the same. It's just a different way of saying it sometimes, is you don't compromise your values, your goals, be hard to kill. Things happen. Don't give up. Don't die. Keep fighting. And being relentless is you just don't quit, and I think that's how all those things are tied in and interrelated, and together makes you stronger. So, one of the things I had a lot of setbacks through my career, is he talked about earlier. I think the biggest setback I ever had was I just got second at the Olympia. I won the Arnold Classic, and I was 30 days out from the Mr. Olympia in 2011, and 2011 Olympia, and I tore my quad off the bone completely. So I was laying on the ground. I reached to grab this muscle, and this muscle was about up here, about 3 inches higher than it's supposed to be, and there was no quad left down here. And that's usually a game ender. I don't think anybody had ever successfully, that I can remember, come back from that injury. A couple guys that had that injury, and they did compete again, but no one ever really came back successfully. And so that was on a Saturday. I had surgery on a Monday. I'm sitting there, and I'm reading all the stuff they're writing about me, and everybody's writing my obituary. It's over, it's done. Could have, should have, almost was, but wasn't going to happen. And so about 2 days of reading this stuff, and I never read stuff like that. I always insulated myself from negativity. But I sat there, and I got madder and madder. And I told my wife, I said, I'm going to do the Arnold. defend my title. She goes, in 6 months? I go, yeah. She goes, all right. She went cooked a big plate of chicken and rice and put it in my lap. She goes, you better start eating. And that's when I started my prep for the Arnold. So a few days later, I went into the gym, and my workout partner, Johnny Jackson, I came in on crutches. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting ready for the Arnold. And he goes, all right, let's go. And that was that. So we started training. And, you know, sometimes in life, the worst things that happen to you, at the time, you don't think anything worse could have happened to you. And that's kind of how I felt at that moment. But if you overcome it and you succeed, those things turn out to be blessings. Looking back on it, is one of the best things that could have happened to me, because I think a person's true character comes out in those hard times and in defeat, not in victory. It's easy to win. It's hard to lose. It's hard to be injured. It's hard to go through tough times. So I proved to myself I could overcome just about anything that the world threw at me if you're willing to put the work in. That being said, that's easier said than done, right? Actually going out and doing it is another thing. So physically, it was one of the most painful things I've ever had to endure. You know, coming back as fast as I did. You know, I had to learn how to walk, and I couldn't walk. I had to learn how to walk again. And I'm talking about in 6 months, I'm going to be on stage and win the Arnold. And I stood in front of 20,000 people at the Olympia, and Bob asked me, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to do the Arnold. I'm going to win. And I don't think anybody believed me except for my wife and Brian. But, you know, that's okay. As long as you believe in yourself and you got one or two close family members or friends, that's all you need. That's all I needed. And I believed in myself. And so I started the process. And after I finished the rehab portion of my recovery, the first day in the gym, I had one 45-pound plate on one side of the leg press. My leg was shaking so bad, I barely got 10 reps. And at this point, I got 5 months, less than 5 months left, and I have to be on stage. And I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? Well, you can either let it defeat you, or in my case, it made me mad. And I just got more motivated. So you know what I did? I unracked it, and I did another set. And then I did another set. And then I did another set. And the next day I came in, I did more sets. And every day I came in, those little bitty, I went from 10 reps to 12 reps to 20 reps to another plate to 25 more pounds to 35 more pounds. And every little victory I got, an improvement, that motivated me to keep pushing and going harder, because you're moving in the right direction. Your long-term goal is to be on the Arnold and win, right? But in the meantime, I'm like, I want to do 2 plates on leg press, which sounds ridiculous, right? But when you're coming back from a complete quad rip, that's a big victory. And so I let those little bitty small victories motivate me and keep me going every day. And I was more focused on my nutrition, my cardio, my training than I'd ever been, because I knew if I wasn't, I didn't have a chance. And so rep by rep, day by day, I fought my way back. And when I was 30 days out from the show, I posed in the mirror, and I was like, you know what? I can actually win this thing. And so 30 days later, I was the last man standing on stage. So that was my proudest moment of my entire bodybuilding career. There might have been victories that were bigger, but for me, that was the biggest, most important one, because you go from potentially career-ending injury 6 months earlier, going through everything you go through, to be the last man standing at the Arnold was a huge moment for me. So, and it's just that relentless pursuit of, not giving up, guys. So bad things happen in life, happens to everybody. It doesn't matter if it's in business, in school, your marriage, whatever it is. Life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. So when bad stuff happens and the storm clouds gather, don't give up. Keep fighting.
That is definitely a relentless pursuit.
Any questions on that for Branch?
Any questions, Brent?
Branch, I got a question, just because our lifestyles are kind of similar to a lot of things you spoke on relate to my life. I grew up in Oklahoma. I was a bulldogger, which is a steer wrestler in the rodeos. As a young man, I sustained a lot of injuries in my youth doing that type of sports. I was underweight. Something your uncle and your dad push you to do. Like, you're going to be great at it. And you come out with bad hips and bad back and everything else. So I guess my question for you, obviously in the terms of being relentless, pushing forward, what was the first injury you sustained? And what was your mentality on, okay, am I going to damage myself further, or is this something I'm going to continue doing and get better? When does it be turned from ego lifting to motivated, I'm going to push through this and continue going? Or where was your fear and potential of continuing the damage? And what was your first injury that kind of pushed you through that and your mentality for that?
I had my first serious injury. I was 25 years old. I just got third at the USA in the heavyweights. And back in my day, it was much harder to turn pro. There was 2 shows as a guy you could turn pro at. You had to win the overall at the USA, which means you had to beat about 250 bodybuilders to get a 1 pro card. And then at the nationals, you had to win your weight class. So there was 6 pro cards a year that we were battling over. I just got third at the heavyweights, and I was going to go do the nationals. I tore my bicep. I I deadlifted as you probably know, me and Johnny used to powerlift a lot. Johnny still does. And I deadlifted super heavy. And I think I strained my bicep tendon a little bit. And the next day I went to train arms, and I was curling like 225. And imagine that, and my bicep tore. So, you know, at the time I was like, it happened. I knew exactly what I did. I went to the doctor, and they said, yeah, you tore it, and you know, we can reattach it. And I didn't really freak out though. I was like, you know what, this is just another bump in the road, and I had it repaired. And 9 months later, I won the nationals and turned pro. You know, so it's just because something bad happens doesn't mean it's in the road. You just stay calm, come up with a plan, and go to work. And I think the biggest thing is just go to work, man. It's you sit there and cry about it and have self-pity. That does you no good. You know, for me, I didn't have a backup plan. You know, as far as like a safety net. You know, I helped my parents, helped my mother. You know, so there was no failure was not an option for me. You know, I did go to college. You know, I paused 4 years when I was 18 to 22. I guess I didn't compete. You know, I went to school, worked my way through school, worked 3 jobs to get through school because realistically, you know, I didn't know if I was going to make it. You could be driving to the gym, getting a car wreck, bodybuilding's over, right? So you got to be realistic. You know, any kind of athlete, doesn't matter what athlete you are, it's going to be a limited amount of time you're able to do that. Then you got a whole lot of living left to do. So I got an education, but you know, bodybuilding was where that was my dream and my passion, and I thought I could do well at it. So I got injured, got it repaired immediately, and got right back into rehab. Got it, improved it, and I actually came into the nationals 18 pounds heavier than I did at the USA with surgery and an injury, and I won. So you know, bad things happen, you can overcome them. It just comes down to don't give up. Yeah.
Oh, in your opinion, what is better, genetics or hard work? Because I see guys at the gym, they got good genetics and they don't have to do shit. And then you got guys that have bad genetics or decent genetics, and they're putting in the work, and it seems like they ain't getting the same results that this guy is getting, whether he's not doing much or going 40, 50% of the gym.
I'm going to answer it this way. I said this one time in an interview. You have to have some level of genetics to do the sport. What I'm saying is if you want to be an NBA basketball player and you're 5'4", it probably ain't going to happen. You can work your ass off. Outwork everybody in the league. It probably still ain't going to happen. Okay, it's just you have to have the genetics to do the sport. Now, if you have the genetics to do the sport, that doesn't guarantee you're going to be successful. That's when hard work comes into play. So if you have, you know, if you're 6'2", which is still kind of short for an NBA player, but you put the work in, you can make it happen. I believe that. We've seen it happen many times, you know. You guys, they might not have been the biggest, strongest, fastest, but they had enough genetic potential combined with that heart and that drive that they became superstars. So there is a certain level. Genetics do play a part in every sport. Like I had a good friend of ours that he played for the Cowboys and the Saints, and he was a lineman. Guy was huge. He was like 6'5", you know, 330 pounds. He wanted to be a bodybuilder. And I told him, I'm like, I don't know about this. You know, just what made you great as an NFL lineman, it's not necessarily going to make you great as a bodybuilder. You know, wide hips, you know, long arms, all these things. That's why you were great as a football player. That's not necessarily going to make you great as a bodybuilder. And, you know, he bodybuilded. He went to nationals, won a couple shows with the nationals, got like 8th place as a super heavyweight. But he was never going to be a pro bodybuilder. He just didn't. It wasn't in the cards. He looked great. You know, you see him in the gym like that guy's a monster. But, you know, for what he wanted to do, it wasn't going to happen. And so I think, back to what you're saying, I came up with guys that were genetic freaks. And they hardly trained. I compete against guys as a pro who they trained. It was ridiculous the way they trained. And then these other guys killed themselves, and they didn't look half as good as this guy did. You know, I was the guy who I had decent genetics. I didn't have Phil Heath genetics by any means, but I played to my strengths. I knew I could get really hard. I could be the hardest guy on stage, and I could put on a shit ton of muscle. And so if you're the most muscular and the hardest guy on stage, combined with my legs and my strong points, I knew I had a chance of beating just about anybody in the world. You know, we were in Vegas this last week, and at Hide and Irish College Gym, and they had all the pictures of Mr. Olympians up there, and you know, from Jake Cutler all the way through President, I looked at Michael and I said, I beat all those guys multiple times. You know, I just didn't get an Olympia win. You know, so if you want to put the work in and you have decent genetics of whatever chosen sport it is, I believe if you put the work in and you're the hardest worker in the room, you can be successful. Anybody else?
Do you think you'll ever go back to Mr. Olympia?
To compete again?
Yeah.
No.
No? Fair enough.
No, I'm 47. My partner Johnny Jackson I worked out with for 20 plus years. They just announced the Masters Mr. Olympia here a couple weeks ago, and he called me and he said, "Hey man, you hear they're bringing back the Masters Olympia? It's going to be big prize money and all this." And I'm like, "No, I didn't hear that." He goes, "What do you think?" There was a silence on the phone for like about 30 seconds. He didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. And finally he goes, "What do you think? We got another one in us?" I said, "You do." And so for me, it makes no sense. If I could look like I did when I was 35, I'd go do the Mr. Olympia. I wouldn't do the Masters, but at 47, it makes no sense. There's really there's no upside to it. Even if I went and won the Masters, it still doesn't make sense because I don't want people to remember me looking like that. I'd rather people remember me looking, when I was 35, 36, 37 years old. So, anybody else? Yes.
I have one more question. Because you used to compete, and I listen to a lot of your podcasts you do and a lot of your videos. What's your opinion on insulin use in the bodybuilding industry when it comes to competing and all that? Because I like Milos Sarcev, and he's the one who introduced it and talks a lot about that. What's your personal opinion when it comes to that?
I never did it, never will do it, and I'm not going to risk my life to win a bodybuilding show. Even the Mr. Olympia, I wouldn't risk my life for it. So that's my opinion of it. Anybody else? I'm going to turn it over to MJ.
Hello. Listening to you guys and the Branch and the tail end of Kris here. Sorry, I was a little bit late here. I think for me, no compromises is about the philosophy, and the philosophy goes back to everything that we do, and being no compromise about reading our own book and making sure that we preach our own book every day, and when we go and listen to seminars like this, we should have 80% of our own book read every day and preach every day, and we should have like 20% input. That's my philosophy, and I think for me it was never in my cards to be a pro bodybuilder. My first bodybuilding show was 1987 Mr. Olympia in Gothenburg, and I was probably 20, 21, and Rich Gaspari was on the stage. He came in second after Lee Haney, and so of course I had a dream of being there, but maybe when I was 27 I switched, and I decided that the business part of living this lifestyle is going to be my Mr. Olympia. So the whole thing about no compromises is to, making sure that it really doesn't matter that much if you're focusing on bodybuilding or trying to go with a car really fast around the track like we did yesterday. And Branch and Kris here, they were hauling ass on the track and learning the ropes of racing. Because that's a little bit what life is all about, learning to take the corners and keeping like the whole racing with the cars is like philosophy, and it's the same thing with the business. It's the same thing with bodybuilding, and I think also you talked about genetics and those type of things. If you're very well grounded in your philosophy and use that as a platform, you can decide when it's time to not do the bull riding or whatever it was, or when the damage is, because I could see that, there is no point for me to do that. I grew up in a similar environment as Branch, but I didn't have Ronnie Coleman or something like that next to me. So, by me being 21 and Rich Gaspari 24 or something on the stage, I didn't see it at that time, but, by 27, 28, I saw, oh, it's not going to happen, you know. So, and my goals were much bigger. My philosophy goals were much bigger, you know. So I decided to be Mr. Olympia in my own world, in my own business, and what I'm, and the life I'm living. So, and that's why it's so, you know, of course, hanging out with Branch and Kris for so many years that we gave me the same type of journey. It was like when Branch came second or first, you know, it was the same for me, you know. I was living through that. And today when I had a workout with Rich Gaspari, I felt like, oh, I've gone full circle here, you know, in my, you know, quest of what I'm doing, you know. So I think being no compromises, don't think about it as, you know, black and white, choosing between and trying to be hell-bent on something. It's more about the philosophy of reading your own book, preaching your own book, and making sure that you take every opportunity to talk to people about your own, you know, your own philosophy, you know. What are you pursuing? What are you trying to achieve? What's your goals in life? And the goals should never be looked at through a straw. You know, sometimes many of us, we think like, okay, the more I focus, the more I'm gonna win, you know. But if you try to do that on a racetrack, you can just imagine how it's gonna go. You don't go very far. You go off the track right, because you need to have peripheral view and you need to have focus at the same time. And you shouldn't choose between them. You should have both. So the only difference between me and Branch and Kris on the racetrack and the pro driver is that they can process a lot of information at the same time, and they can handle that under high pressure and speed. So I think that's a little bit what No Compromises philosophy is all about. It's not about choosing, it's about actually doing what you want to do and fill your life with a lot of stuff that you feel gives you energy, it gives you passion, and it gives you purpose. That's you know, how I at least see on my philosophy, what I think is important, and never waver on those passion, purpose, and what we're going for. So that's the No Compromises. So the No Compromises is much higher up in the food chain, if you say so, and it's not about the details. So that could be sometimes in, you know, when we put under stress from surrounding, let's say you talked about, could be marriage or injuries or whatever it is, that's when the importance of reading your own book comes out. Because, you know, it's easy to read your own book and preach your own thing when things are going good. But when things go to shitters, that's where you need to, then it needs to be ingrained. And I think when I'm thinking back about my 30, 40 years of doing what I've been doing, I just realize that that's what I've been doing my whole life. So, you know, sometimes people get tired of me, I'm talking too much, even if I'm not the speaker. But and sometimes people say to me, why do you spend so much time talking to me about stuff like this? Because you have your business on a certain level and I'm just getting started. And I say to them that, you know, our talks give me as much as it gives you. So if you are happy over the talks, that's fine. That's super good. It gives me energy and passion and purpose. But it's also a selfish part, and that's kind of like I'm retelling my story all the time. And by doing that, I make sure that I'm not wavering, you know. And another part I can add to this about the not wavering is like when things go tough. You know, I moved here 2012 in February with my family, sold everything, and came in on 30,000 feet. Is that what you call it? You know, very high up. And from a setup in Europe that was very safe, secure, mature, and after maybe 5 years into everything, you know, it was not the same world anymore, and you crash landed. And during that crash landing, it was very healthy to do other stuff in my life that gave me I was doing motocross, and I was going really good with the motocross, even if it was like amateur level. Whatever I'm doing, I was excelling in. So when the business was crash landing, my other parts of my peripheral view was excelling. So it was really good for my self-esteem, my brain, and I get more good sleep than just sleepless nights, and that was really helpful. So that is another aspect of making sure that you have peripheral view. You shouldn't become one-dimensional because you have a target. And I think me thinking about both Kris and Branch, they are not one-dimensional people despite their success on what they've been, working towards. They're very complex figures in many ways. and that's how it should be, So don't try to do a simple solution on life. Try to embrace life in a much bigger way. That's my, and if you have any questions, yeah.
You have a question for Michael?
Yeah, question for Michael. When you were in Vegas, where did you find a ribeye steak that size?
It takes a lot of experience actually, and being relentless in your pursuit.
I saw that thing. It's like 2 plates.
Yeah.
It was messed up. I had like this little fillet.
But it's actually not a dumb question in any way, or it's a little bit serious anyway, because me and Branch talked about that place, and he always go there. When in Vegas, years of experience. How many years have you been to Olympia, Vegas?
I think I competed in 10 Olympias, and I was figuring out like 40 trips to Vegas.
Yeah, so 40 trips, that creates some kind of experience, And Peppermill, that's the name of the restaurant, the breakfast place, So all this stuff that we've been doing when we were in Vegas, including the ribeye, the Peppermill, the helicopter tours, or Grand Canyon, I should say, all that is there to to really feed our life with positive stuff that helps us to continue to grow passion and purpose. So of course you need to have diversity in life, and I'm trying to make everything into philosophy here, but it's actually that's how you live life in a fast lane when you drive the car very fast on the track. Those details matters. So that's why we went for the big tomahawk steak.
Capital Grill.
Capital Grill.
Capital Grill.
I think Michael goes every time when he's there. And I've been going to Capital Grill. It's like tradition. So every time I would compete in Olympia, usually the next Sunday night after Olympia, we would go there and have dinner.
So, 1 second. One of the things I get asked a lot, when people come a little bit close and they see and can maybe follow what's happening. I notice that they feel like shit. There is so much stuff that is happening. And it's a little bit the racing again, that you try to hit your marks all the time. Like the ribeye is just one little small detail that could seem minuscule from whatever perspective, but it's actually everything. I wouldn't say everything has a purpose. That's not what I mean, but I just mean that I think it's important to fill your life with stuff that gives you meaning and gives you joy, gives you passion, and fuels more purpose, And for me, the tomahawk, when I see Nick Del Toro take the leftovers and just munching them in with the bone like this, then that's worth the whole trip to Capitol Grill. Yeah. So of course, I think there is a lot. If you go to the racetrack again, they say, the instructor will say, don't you ever coast. It means like you don't coast on a racetrack. You either brake or you gas, you steer, you do stuff. And that's a little bit what that stake is about, you know. So, or whatever it is. And a lot of people maybe have dreams, and but they coast too much to make those dreams happen. So this goes together with the no compromise. Again, that, you know, fill your life with meaningful stuff. You know, make sure that it happens. Peripheral view and focus on it, and you're chipping away on the plates like Branch was talking about, and suddenly, you know, you are winning the Arnold, and that's a little bit how I see it. You said there was someone, yeah.
I had a question. So I'm just curious. So all of you guys have pretty restricted diets, obviously, when it comes to like competing. Kris being healthy, health conscious as he is. When you guys, like, I guess, go into like treats, or what do you guys have for like cheat meals? Like for me, like, I'm a diabetic, so like my diet is very strict, and I can't have really like any type of sugar. So like I'm just curious, for like someone who is as health conscious as you are, and you being, you know, an Arnold champion, like, when you guys get like the cravings or like the urge, like, what do you guys have? What do you guys do?
Well, since I had Edmund's homemade burger yesterday, I'd say that's it. The burger was bomb. The homemade bread was awesome. But I'm not one of those people that really has a craving so much. You know, I love sushi, but, you know, would you call that a cheap meal? I know when I've seen the amount that Branch eats, he has like a boat. I'd say that's probably a cheat. That's a huge amount. But the one thing that I really, really like, that I'll treat myself to every now and again, is a bowl of like homemade granola. And that's it. I love that, you know, and obviously you can make that without sugar. You know, you could put some, instead of putting honey on it, you could have it with sugar-free syrup or something like that, you know. And there's things that you can do. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, to mitigate the insulin spike from having, you know, some sugar. I'm not saying as a diabetic that you should do that, but, you know, you can have things like chromate, which is a patented form of chromium. You can have bitter melon. You can have berberine. So there's several ingredients that you can take that mitigates the damage of an insulin spike. And another thing, I'm not telling you all to go and have ice baths in the morning, but have an ice bath in the morning. I wore a 24-hour blood glucose monitor. Do you wear one of them at all? Yeah, so I wore them for about a year to experiment how different foods would have a different effect on me. And I noticed when I do an ice bath in the morning, I check out my insulin spikes throughout the day, it's much more stable. So a 3-minute ice bath obviously helps mobilize fatty acids, but it creates blood sugar stability as well.
Another thing I can say that is good for a little bit what you guys are talking about is to not coast. If you do too much coasting in life, the craving will come, and more than, and if you're not. So by, you know, I know especially, you know, for Kris and Branch, their life, as an example here, they live that life that they don't get craving the same way, and I think it's because they fill their life with a lot of fast corners and braking and gassing and making sure that they, you know, there is really no time to just, you know, just look at TV and eat ice cream, Bluebell, you know.
Well, first, I hate the whole term cheat meal. I hate that because I ain't cheat on nothing. You know, so when I was competing, I never went off my plan, ever. I think that's a cop-out, man. I think it's people, oh, it's a refeed day. Well, if it's a refeed, if you're flat, you need to eat up. Go eat potatoes, rice, oatmeal, and fill up. I think people have their excuse to have a cheat meal is because they're weak, man, and they want to have some trash. and satisfy their craving. It's what it is. So you can do the same thing and do it better is if you eat a bunch of oatmeal or potatoes or rice and fill back up, and you're getting quality carbs and not just a bunch of sugar and crap. I think all cheat meals are for people that can't handle the diet. They've been dieting for weeks, and they come up with an excuse. Oh, I need to fill out. I'm going to eat an ice cream sundae and a bunch of cereal and whatever other kind of crap they want to eat. And that's all it is, in my opinion. I never did that. I never once in all my years of competing broke down and went and ate a bunch of trash. Because if I did that, I'm not helping myself. I'm helping the people I'm competing against. Why would I knowingly give my competitors an advantage over me? That makes no sense whatsoever. And all a cheat meal, all those cravings are, is you're craving taste. When you can finally rationalize it in your head that, okay, I'm doing this because it tastes good. Okay, and by doing that, you're not helping yourself. You're helping the competitors. They're trying to beat you on stage. So I never once did it. Now that I'm retired, I don't eat as strict as I did when I was competing. There's no reason to. I'll never carb deplete again as long as I live. That being said, though, I eat really healthy for the most part. I don't have a sweet tooth, never have. I think the only time I ever eat sweets is when my daughter, talks me into having some Oreos with her or some ice cream. If I never go get the stuff myself, it's always with my daughter if she wants to do it. So besides that, if I'm going to eat something bad, I'm going to choose a cheeseburger or a pizza or something Italian. A good burger is a good thing. So I don't do it all the time, but every now and then, that's a good thing. But that being said, I'm retired, man. So as long as I can if I can maintain how I look right now for the next 20 years, I'm cool. So yes.
If we have a question or time enough, I have another question for him real quick. And this kind of goes back into, a gentleman behind me mentioned genetics in terms of physicality. Working out, getting big, genetics. Your whole ideology, what we're talking about, is philosophy, mentality. Appreciate the little things. That tomahawk steak is a rest point. That's a point in your life to sit and enjoy a good steak, or a helicopter tour to the Grand Canyon. How to envision it like that. These are rest points throughout your life, not to be stagnant. Was there a point in your life that you knew that's how it had to be? You needed to have a philosophy to carry on? 'Cause I feel like a lot of people, maybe genetically in their lives, don't think that way. Maybe a lot of people don't think, okay, physically, I know I need to get in the gym and work, but I just can't make the effort happen in my brain. At what point in your life did you decide, this is the philosophy I'm coming up with, and this is how I know I'm going to stick to it, and this is the reason why I'm doing it? What clicked for you?
Yeah, I think when I'm, listening to Branch and the burgers and all that stuff, it's like his purpose is so strong. The choices becomes easier, So I think stimulate the purpose is very, very, very important, and I think for me it has always been about reading my own book. And pretty early on, I noticed if I speak something into existence, then it will happen. So in the beginning, I was more or less just voicing it for myself and for others, goals, ambitions, or whatever it is, and by that doing the philosophy. I didn't know at the time that this is like a thing that is a philosophy. I didn't think about it as a philosophy. I just saw it as, if I say it, then it's, and then I'm going to do it, or then this is going to happen. And in the beginning, during the journey, someone told me that, oh, you dream too much, or, why do you talk so much, or, what. But I just felt compelled to talk to myself and bringing other with me a little bit on my own journey and the book and kind of preaching that. So I think and another thing that I feel is a common denominator for people like Kris and Branch and other successful people is that at the pretty early age they get the focus and the peripheral view that includes what we talk about. Like they get that at an early age. Rich Kaspari competing at 24 at Olympia, that was one of those examples. He got that together on the big stage, But there could be anything in life that you want to pursue, regardless if it's business or whatever. But don't you ever try to make it one-dimensional or easy or black and white. embrace that it's hard to drive fast on a track. There is a lot of information to be processed, and try to deal with that information instead. Learn how to drive fast in life. Live life in the fast lane. Saying that in a good way, we shouldn't crash and burn, and we shouldn't let life just pass us by. This is complete opposite. This is actually seeing life and catching life, as that fuels us even more. Otherwise we'll kind of like live in a bunker and thinking that being one-dimensional will leave us to our goal, and then the rest of life will suck. As soon as let's say the career is over in bodybuilding or something else, then you have nothing else. So.
Question for Kris. Could you share your thoughts on keto diet and kind of intermittent fasting and how you combine them, if you ever did them? How long would you keep them?
Yeah, I've done them all, mate. I've done them all, and it all depends on that individual, for sure. I did keto, but it didn't really work for me. I felt great from a cognitive standpoint, but not from a physical standpoint. I train with a lot of volume in the gym. I need glycolytic energy, not ketones. I know there's a lot of endurance athletes that work on ketones, but they don't hold the amount of muscle that I do, so I need glycolytic energy. But, I've got my father on a strict keto diet. He had cancer a few years ago, so I don't want to feed him sugars or starch carbs. I want to remove those kind of cravings that he could possibly fall into. I don't know. So it has its time and place for people. Like Sean Wells, he had a benign tumor in his brain, and he, he's been on a keto for like 20 odd years now and been able to control that. So there's different modalities that you'd utilize it for. From a physical standpoint, everybody's different. People get into ketosis, they become fat adaptive a bit quicker and more productive than others. But for me, it didn't really work. The intermittent fasting, I do that as just, again, to be harder to kill. I'm just trying to take myself towards discomfort. So if that means, fasting, then I'll do that. Is it going to help me in the gym? No, probably not. But I'm not too bothered about that. There's a lot of things that I do that probably don't help me in the gym. Sometimes I'll overtrain, train 14 days in a row. But it gives me that mental tenacity to be harder to kill, and it makes me feel good, and it's therapeutic. So I'll do that, So it has its time and place. Like when I went on that silent retreat, I was doing like 20-hour fasts or 19 and a half, 20-hour fasts for like 12 days. And I was eating plant-based food. You know what I mean? It wasn't protein. Is that going to be good, productive for my muscle gain? No. But did it help me here? For sure. And doing things like that, I find, where I'm chasing discomfort, where I feel that I'm progressing, in doing so, facing those challenges makes me feel better for other challenges that may come my way in life. We were talking about injuries before. I've had a lot of injuries from various sports that I've participated in. And yeah, you could say that's a shortcoming, but it's really helped me in the future where there's something unexpected that happens in our life, but we're able to navigate it that much more because we've gone through challenges before. So I think it's very important, if you do go through an injury, if you do go through something, an argument with your wife, or, something happens with your business entrepreneurship spirit that you're chasing towards, that you don't become a reaction to it. You take a step back, you make notes, you translate it, you digest it, and then you create action points. Like Branch mentioned about the injuries, he's not seeking sympathy. He doesn't want attention for that. He just wants to knuckle down and work around it to move forward. So it's very important. I hear people that, oh, woe me, this has happened, that's happened. And then they create this negativity in their path for their future. You have to be very, very conscious of your self-talk, because that echoes in every other area of your life. And you want to kind of surround yourself with people that are just going to provide positivity. So you're going to have to give it in order to receive it as well. And as Michael mentioned before, to a certain degree, you have to be selfish to be selfless. And I do live by that. You got to look after number one to a certain degree, to be good about yourself, to feel good about yourself in order to give more of yourself. That's very, very important. A lot of people I see do so much for other people, but they leave themselves last. They leave their health last. Well, they're not going to be very good people in the future. And you know, you've talked about, you know, like the cheat meals and whatever before. Try to think of whatever decision that you make or whatever action that you make, is that going to feed you 20 years from now? You know, it isn't all about that self-satisfaction right now. You know, what are the decisions that you're going to make that 20 years from now you will be proud of? You know, nothing that's going to help you regress. Were you going to say something, Michael? I thought you were going to
One thing I was thinking about when you were talking is that when you don't put yourself first, that's also an excuse, you know? So that's like the self-awareness again, I think is super important, you know, to see your own behavior and help you on the path, because a lot of stuff, maybe 80% whatever, is like instinct based, you know. So by trying to identify your own self in the environment that you are in and how you react on different stuff makes you realize, okay, you know, me helping other people here and then blaming them for your own setbacks in your own health or not eating properly or, you know, whatever it is, that's like just excuses that you use, and I think that's why it says no excuses up on the big wall. They're like 40 feet long and 10 feet high.
Yeah, don't allow yourself to get controlled by your environment. And that means, you know, other people or other, you know, talk. It's very important. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with neuroplasticity. You know, you create, you know, new, muscle fiber pathways within a gym. It's the same with your thoughts. You can create new neurons in your brain with the thoughts that you have, you know, to move forward. And if there's a weakness there, like I said, you either delegate it or you work on it. Like, I failed at school, as I mentioned before. And when I got into college, because I understood now when I was learning about health and fitness and nutrition, this was stuff that I was able to retain because now this is something that I wanted to do. This was my purpose. This was my passion. So I found, wow, I'm able to retain this content. But because I hadn't done too well in school, there was things that I had to learn. So when I realized I wanted to reach out to more people and I wanted to be a writer and a photographer, I was like, okay, now I'm going to have to teach myself how to write. I need to learn better English skills. So, you know, I bought Merriam-Webster's book on grammatical writing and started teaching myself. And then when I was working for the magazines, I was like, okay, so I can actually get my articles published if I have photos that accompany it. Instead of me contacting a photographer, I will teach myself photography, you know, so I can put that in a package and reach further. And then what's the next level? You know, I started a magazine for a couple of years. Remember Cage Muscle back in the day, you know, and I wasn't getting any monetary remuneration from this, but this was my purpose and it was a passion. And a lot of things that you do, don't think about the immediate return. If that's something that you really enjoy, then you put your efforts into it and it will get recognized. It did get recognized, which led to my next job as the editor-in-chief of Bodybuilding.com, but it's not with the expectation. There's no expectation there. It's just that purpose, this passion, helping others. As Michael said, it gives you the accountability for you to continue to progress yourself. And I love that. You know, talking to you guys here now, you're talking about cheat meals and shit like that. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go cheat. You know, it just keeps reaffirming and reaffirming. And the more that you share that with people, I feel, you know, because now you've done it to yourself, it's like, okay, if it's possible for me, it's possible for other people. And if there's other people out there struggling, maybe they'll relate to me, maybe they won't, but there will be a chapter that you'd be able to take and put it into your book that will allow you to write your book of your life moving forward. You guys have any questions at all or no?
What you're talking about, Kris, is really a growth mindset, right? So, can you describe some ways to train your mind outside of the gym?
Yeah, for sure.
The difference between like a growth mindset and a fixed mindset.
For sure. Well, I found, like I said, the pivotal foot in there helps. You know, doing your cardio in the morning gets a better blood flow to your brain. If you're feeding the right nutrients to your body and brain that are not pro-inflammatory, for instance, like vegetable oils, sugars, you're going to think clearer. You know, people think, okay, feeding a muscle, It feeds your brain as well, feeds your organs, feels every part of your being. If you're eating pro-inflammatory foods that could lead to a chemical reaction in your brain, then you're not going to think good. You're not going to think good thoughts, possibly, not everybody. You're not going to react the way that you possibly can. But it all depends what you're trying to work upon. So, for instance, I like to read books by like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who talks about breaking the habit of being yourself. If you want to create a habit of being somebody that you want to be. Or it could be something from like Sadhguru. I don't know if you know Sadhguru. So, he's an Indian fella who, he doesn't really preach anything religious at all, but how to experience life with perfect equanimity. Because a lot of the time we're either craving for something or we're averting from something. And so we react. Well, how about living in equanimity where you just observe? If someone does you wrong, or if you have bad thoughts, or if something happened in your business, instead of reacting to it in a bad way or craving towards something, just observe it in equanimity. Let's say if you've got something that happened in your past 15 years ago that's now creating a cloud over something else that you want to achieve in your future. Well, instead of reacting to it with negative thoughts, if you just observe it, you'll find it comes to the surface and it just washes away. And, I think when you're reading books like that, to help with these neurons, these pathways, that's going to take you towards the path that you want to achieve. Again, you just take little chapters. A lot of these books that I read, I don't relate to absolutely everything, but there's always a gem in there that I'll take to it and go, okay, that's part of my chapter. That's part of my book. Much like when you're looking at social networks, don't bloody compare yourself to other people that are out there. We see it all the time. You just, you look at yourself, and I think when you have a good hard look at yourself in the mirror and call yourself out on your own bullshit, it really does help. You just got to have complete transparency, not only with other people, but with yourself.
I got a follow-up question for you. So I know a while back you went down to Costa Rica to a place called Rhythmia.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could elaborate on how that experience affected you and your mindset, and did it change you in any ways?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that was. I didn't get as much out of it from that retreat as I really thought I would. At the time, yeah, for sure, there was things that happened, and I know there's other people in that retreat that had life-changing experiences, but I don't feel I was absolutely ready at that time to kind of relinquish myself, to work upon the things that I really needed to work upon. And I think when you look to an external factor like that and you expect so much and you don't get that in return, you need to have a deep look at yourself and the actions that you make. And in all honesty, doing the silent retreat was much more powerful for me, because now I am sensory deprived. Like after about 4 days in that in the silent retreat, I was starting to go nuts, man. I was starting to go crazy because the thoughts in my head were just becoming louder and louder and louder. I was in tears because of thoughts of things that happened like 25, 30, 35 years ago, but they needed to come up for me to totally relate to them, acknowledge them, that they were there in order, like I said, with equanimity, for them to dissipate. But I know on that 4th day, I'm like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. But then I realized, okay, this is my craving. This is my aversion, my craving to get back into society, my aversion to leave, meditation from bloody 4:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening. You go a bit bloody crazy, but you need to go through that in order for, all the negative thoughts or self-talk to dissipate. And I realized, like, for instance, when I was there's this little walking path. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I remember walking. They said, you'll have a 30-minute break. You'll be able to go for a walk. And I was like, oh, great. Saw this path. I was like, it's tiny. Is that it? Because I can't work out, can't do any exercise. I got this little path. But then I realized that's me craving. We always want more. It's never enough. We have that every day of our lives. And when you experience that, then you appreciate a lot more than what we have. And I wasn't appreciating as much as I should have. I wasn't acknowledging, and that's why life goes so quick, because it's always chase, chase, chase. But as Michael mentioned before, you've got to have, got to have a bit of playtime. You've got to have a bit of balance, to the extent where that work and that play, you don't really notice the difference. And that's where I was lacking. And I looked at what Michael was doing, traveling and enjoying life, and I wasn't enjoying it as much as I should have. And going into that silent retreat really helped me realize that and acknowledge, okay, there's a lot that I need to be proud of. There's a lot that I need to be aware of, and acknowledge that, hey, life ain't so bad. You know what I mean? Because it's very easy. You see people that multimillionaires and they end up killing themselves. It's like, geez, I thought you had everything. No, the success comes here. It's not materialistic possession. And we just need to have more equanimity to observe that.
Kris is the intellectual one here, out of us three here. Yeah. No, but just want to say that I realize when he's talking also that, maybe some can relate to what I'm saying, but I just see myself as slow, So I don't have that fast answer always, when stuff happen. I don't feel like I'm, really good on throwing, quick answer and punching back on when someone is doing something. So automatically I'm observing, and I notice that when I do that, and over time I notice that I come up with much better solutions than trying to think fast and hit fast, So sometimes the surrounding is pushing me to think fast, hit fast, make a decision, and I'm not going there, and it usually 9 out of 10 cases is it just puts me in a much better place overall, long term and short term.
It's just like the car racing, isn't it? Sometimes you got to slow down, be smoother to go faster.
Most of the time it's like that, actually. If you go to the track, the first thing that the pro trainer will tell you is to slow down, to go fast. You need to be smooth, and I think it goes with life too.
Yeah, I've definitely gone too fast a lot of times and crashed and burned, but with age and hopefully a little bit wiser, it's not going to happen.
Kris, I got a question for you, man. Just in terms of being hard to kill. And it sounds like from a young age, not even the physicalities, not even the career you're personally doing right now, that have to be self-taught. You weren't good in school, you taught yourself the things that you wanted to know. It sounds like just in that aspect, you were already hard to kill. You're learning the things you want to learn so you can adapt to your surroundings. I get that because I never really got a formal education. All the things I wanted to know, I personally taught myself. Just from curiosity, was there ever been a point in your life up to now that you got tired of being hard to kill? Man, I'm tired of having to teach myself this. I'm tired of having to learn these things. I'm tired of having to do this. Was there ever a point, because it sounds like it's been throughout your entire life, you just got tired of being hard to kill?
No, I feel like I'm just getting started, to be honest with you. And I definitely was like more of a late bloomer, I'd say. I don't think that I was always had the tenacity to think, okay, I'm going to be harder to kill. What I did have was a very hard work ethic, because I grew up on a farm, had to get up very early in the morning while it was still dark with my dad, feed the animals, and then come in, have breakfast, go to school, and then come home, and I'd be working on weekends. And, living in Wales, which, the weather's pretty shit there, is, you're working all year round. You don't work on the farm, you don't get food on your table. So it's not as if you can take a day off if you're sick or anything like that. So I had that work ethic, and it made, my family, and this isn't a bad thing. I think it is definitely a little bit more maybe European or British, but they're not very loving. No one's going to say, hey, I love you, or give you a hug or anything like that. And that works for me. That's fine. We know that we love each other. We just don't have to say it to reaffirm it. But I feel that I know that life can be a white knuckle ride for me if I don't practice the diligence to be harder to kill. When I raced motocross pretty much full time for like 10 years. And then I went into downhill mountain biking. So it was adrenaline. And when I lost my identity associated to those things, I turned to drugs and alcohol. You know, I was hitting partying hard, really hard. And I could see what was happening to my friends. I could see how it was affecting my parents, my family. And that's when I was dealing with crazy back issues from one of the injuries that I got from motocross. And when I went to physiotherapy, that alleviated me of the pain. And now I felt that I was somehow alleviated of the depression that I was trying to subdue with drugs and alcohol. And that's when I decided, okay, 360, let's go to college, let's study this. I need to get the friggin' hell out of Wales and my surroundings at that time. So that's why I practice the diligence of being harder to kill, because I don't want to regress to be that person, because I don't like that person. You know, I know what I'm like without sleep. You know, I'm not a good person to be around. So, you know, that is what allows me to practice these things every day. I'm a lot harder on myself than I would be on my clients or on anyone else. My wife knows that. I'm pretty hard on myself, but I like it. I enjoy it. You know, if I get up and get in that ice bath every morning while it's still dark, I feel better for it. If I don't hit the snooze button, I feel better for it. If I feel I start to regress and I start fasting or whatever, I feel better for it. So, you know, I'm very hard on myself. Well, that's what other people say. It feels pretty normal to me, you know.
I started following you in like 2012 when you first released your 12-week transformation.
2010, man.
Yeah, my bad. My mind is. I was once on drugs too, but I got off.
Well, an hour ago? An hour ago?
Yeah, an hour ago. No, I followed your 8-week hardcore body training, your carnivore diet. Can we expect any more videos from you similar to those where you do the daily vlogs, where you're doing the workouts with us, the food, the nutrition? Because nowadays you gotta pay for stuff like that, and people want to charge a fortune when you used to release those videos for free.
Yeah, that's right. So each one of those video trainers, to be honest with you, cost over $100,000. They were expensive, yeah, but bodybuilding.com was footing the bill for all of those, you know, but bodybuilding.com is a very different platform than it used to be. So now they pay to play. You know, so you have to pay to watch a lot of those video trainers. So if there's a demand for it, you know, because I keep asking people, because people say, yeah, when are you going to do another video trainer? I'm like, well, what do you want? You know, well, am I going to do another muscle building video trainer? Am I going to do another fat loss trainer? It's pretty much the same thing. It's very similar. You know, the last one I did was an Ironman video trainer, you know, how to prep for an Ironman in 6 months. And, you know, that was good. But how many people are out there really want to do an Ironman? You know, it's not a huge amount of people. But if the demand is there, for sure I'll do something. You know, it gives me the purpose and passion to do it because I enjoy doing that, but I want to know what people want. So if you tell me what you want, then yeah, we can get to the drawing board and do it, as long as I keep myself safe and not injured. You know, muscles seem to be falling off me lately.
Hey Kris, do you have any advice for somebody who would be aspiring to start a personal training business from scratch?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm assuming, is this like a studio, brick and mortar, or online?
It would be like an in-person.
In person. Okay. Yeah, it's. I'd say number one, you know, you need to find your niche. I'd probably try to find. This would be a great question for Michael, actually. But you need to find your niche. Is it going to be transformations? You know, I'd say start creating do you train people currently?
I've trained a few friends and family who have basically hounded me to do it, and it's gone really well. And then people in the gym have started kind of inquiring about it after watching, which, to be honest, a lot of my stuff's been inspired from you guys. So, but it's starting to. It's one of those things where you just kind of do something because you enjoy it, and you're passionate about it, and all of a sudden there's things happening. So wasn't really a thought, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna hand this over to Michael in a second, but I'm just going to give you my perspective. Start getting those testimonials now. Start getting those if for instance, I don't know if it's performance based, but if it's weight loss based or whatever, start getting those before and after pictures. Not everyone's going to relate to you. They're going to look at you and go, "That guy works out for a living." he's fine. You know, where if they see somebody who's gone, you know, they can relate to that before picture. It's like, oh wow, that person did it, and they had 3 kids, and they held down 2 jobs. What are my excuses, you know? So I'd start putting those together for sure. And obviously you need to look at, you know, with that brick and mortar, what's your demographic? You know, is it in a residential area? Is it usually business? Is it seasonal or whatever? So, you know, those are the things that you need to look at. But I'd say find your niche. That's what I did. I found my niche. Of course, I train you know, people that are like MMA fighters, motocross, whatever, but my niche is mostly fat loss, muscle building, transformations. But it's not just from a physical aspect, it's all mental. You know, I do a podcast and I interview my one-on-one clients because I find their stories fascinating, and people are able to relate to the setbacks, the injuries, the losses in their life more than sometimes the six-pack that they've gained. And I think that's very important, that you extrapolate or extract all of that information from each one of your clients to put it out there to the world. You know, what you do online can really help your brick and mortar business.
Do you want to add to that, Michael?
Yeah, no coasting, and making sure that you know, you go all in without being one-dimensional. So what's your excuses to hold it back? You know, be accountable for what you want to do. Make sure that you go and do it. You know, regardless of what it is in life. I think we get way more out of life if we just dive into life really good, you know. Why half-ass it? Why be in limbo between stuff? So that's a little bit the no compromises where it comes in. It doesn't mean that you sacrifice everything else, but maybe, you know, when it comes to, you know, look at someone who's maybe driving very fast and see like, okay, how can they handle so much information? And then try to see like, you know, what's your excuse? You know, there is no excuse. You can make that happen yesterday, and you just need to go after it wholeheartedly with so much passion and purpose that you know, all these you know, refeed or cheat meals and all whatever there is in life, they don't create excuses for you to stop and do, you know, watch TV when you should work on your purpose. So
I have a follow-up to that for either of you. Do you feel like you have to have a personal training certification in order to do that? If, for instance, like I've been working out for 20 years, I have a lot of information from people like you guys. I feel like I have what I need, but do you believe I would need certification to do it?
I mean, you get the maybe another answer from Kris, who knows about certifications and stuff. When you ask the question, you know, I'm not picking on you, but just asking the question makes you go coasting, you know. So of course we need to have the certifications we need to have, but we just that's like I don't know, you know, your ambition and purpose and what you want to do and need to do is so way much higher up in the and that thing, you know. So I'm just using it as an example, but because the more, it's almost like the more, not the more question we ask, because there's always right to ask questions, but don't put up filters to what you want to do, you know, and then you put up a bazillion number of questions, and then you start picking them up, and they are only there to create excuses, you know. I had also my excuses when I kind of like I had you know, maybe 2 jobs and were in limbo with you know, kind of like, okay, get these 2-3 jobs out of the way who gave me like a secure income, and then focus on my beginning of my aspiring business. And then I remember when I made the jump, I was like, oh my God, was it that easy? You know, why did I have all these excuses that just hold me back? Was it holding me back 6 months, a year, 2 year, 5 year, you know, like that's the whole issue that I'm thinking about when it comes to no compromises. That you know, make shit happen now. Why didn't, and question yourself, what didn't happen yesterday, and then you run with it. That's a little bit my philosophy. You can do anything you decide in life, and there is even the 5'4", I would say, when it comes to basket, you know, like it's not likely, but you can do so much with it, and then maybe that 5'4" in basket turns into something completely different that fulfill that person's goal within basket without necessarily being on the playing field, you know, just like I did. I decided that, okay, I'm not going to be on the Olympia stage, but I can do something else. It's exactly the same thing, you know. Yes.
Sure. You know, the most successful man I've ever known, when I was a young man, he was one of those men that when he spoke, everybody listened. He didn't speak very loud. He was very quiet. But he'd be in a room, he'd start talking, everybody would get quiet, listen to him. He was very successful, and he never just, he thought before he spoke. And I was a young man, in my early 20s. He called me, and he said, hey, I'm coming through town. I'd like to have lunch with you. And I was like, I canceled the rest of my day, and I went to have lunch with him. We sat there for over 3 hours, and he knew more about me than I ever dreamed he would, especially being who he was. And he told me some things, a lot of things that day, and I took them all to heart. One of the things he told me, he said, if you want to be successful, you need to surround yourself with successful people, because it's contagious. He goes, the flip side of that, if you surround yourself with bad people and losers, that's contagious too. And he said, I know you're some of the people you associate with, they're not successful. They're not going anywhere in life. And if to do the things you want to do in life, you need to get away from them and disassociate yourself with those people, and so you can achieve the goals in life you want to achieve. Well, that's easier said than done. When you've got 3 or 4 people that you're associating with, your friends, and they're not going anywhere in life, they're bad influences, to just walk away from them and, you know, go a different direction. That's very hard to do. And but I respected this man so much that I did that, and within a year my whole life turned around. And you know, I had my own business. I had my own gym when I was, you know, 24 years old. After that conversation, I opened my own business. I became successful with that. I turned pro right after that, and my entire life turned around. Personal life, business life, my professional life as a bodybuilder, everything turned around just by taking that advice, taking it to heart, and doing it. And so what I'm trying to say, guys, you all have goals, you know, whether it's to be a personal trainer or it's be a professional bodybuilder or whatever it is in life. And it comes down to one thing. You make that mental choice, you make that mental decision, and then you got to have the toughness and the self-discipline to stick to it. You're going to have setbacks, you're going to have difficulties in life. That's everything. Everybody has them. But you got to be mentally and physically strong enough to overcome those. And true strength is not physical strength, it's mental strength. And you got to have that mental strength to overcome whatever comes your way, stay focused on your goal, and move to it. And, you know, I always was real good. I was very goal-oriented. And no matter what happened, I could turn into a positive. You know, if I had a defeat, I could turn that into a positive to motivate me to try harder, train harder, fix what needed to be fixed, move on. I had short-term goals, medium-term goals, and, of course, the ultimate goal, way up, you know, it was way up there. And like I was talking to MJ this past week in Vegas, you know, if you're looking at a mountain and you want to climb a mountain, you're looking at the top, you're like, how am I ever going to get up there? But if you look right there, like I can get right there. You get there, and then you find another spot, and you're like, I can get right there. And before long, you're halfway up the mountain. And you're like, all right, now I'm going to pick another spot and get there. And you take one step at a time, you'll get to the top of the mountain eventually. It might take you a minute, but as long as you don't give up and don't quit and be relentless, you'll make it to the top. And I think if you can apply that concept to all areas of your life, then you can be successful and achieve your goals. And I've always set the bar impossibly high, and consequently, you got to be relentless in that pursuit. So if I can leave you with that one thing in life, one thing from all this, just don't give up, guys. You have a goal, make that mental decision that you're going to achieve that goal, and then just have that toughness to not give up and overcome whatever comes your way.
I'll just answer this briefly as well. If you're opening a brick and mortar place, it's probably a good idea to get a certification. Is it essential? But you know, you don't want to get sued should you do something to a client. You know, this is America. At the end of the day, they sue you for anything, mate. But you know, I know successful trainers out there. You know, in this industry, we got people like you know, Neil Hill, George Farah. They don't have any certifications. You know, they go all around the world training people all the time, and they train people within this industry all the time. But they're very knowledgeable people. you know, but it isn't essential. But if you're opening like a personal training studio, brick and mortar, you're training people, you know, off the streets, probably be a good idea. You know, I got my certifications prior to me opening a gym in Australia, you know, and you know, not that I needed to cover my ass, but I wanted to ensure that it was covered. Any more questions, guys?
One last question.
Sure.
It's for Branch Warren. How was it going toe to toe with Jay on the Olympia stage?
What was that?
How was it going toe to toe with Jay Cutler on that Olympia stage? I've seen the videos and it must have been.
So I just saw Jay this last week. We were in Vegas and we did a podcast together, and so we compete against each other the first time when we were teenagers. And so I've known Jay for, I don't know, 30 years almost. So we compete each other many times. So you know, he was a fierce competitor and one of the greatest in the history of our sport. You know, so I think he was 4-time Mr. Olympia. So it was. I didn't really when I prepare for contests, I never trained to beat anybody. You know, I trained to be the best I could be. You know, because I think, you know, I'm gonna give you an example. The 2009 Olympia. You know, Dexter Jackson was actually Mr. Olympia that year. And so if I'd have trained to beat Dexter, I did beat Dexter. I beat Mr. Olympia, and I still lost the show. Jay won. You know, so I trained to win the show. I didn't train to beat a specific person. I didn't really care who showed up because I just focused on myself and tried to be the best I could be. And then you just let the cards fall where they may. So, you know, sometimes you can be better than you've ever been and still not good enough. You know, at that moment, that was the best I'd ever been. And it still was, I fell a little bit short. So that's life though, man. So you just get ready. I followed that up with, went to the Arnold, won the Arnold, and I just kept moving forward. But, you know, Jay was one of the greatest in the history of our sport. And, you know, at the Mr. Olympia, one thing matters, size matters. You know, Jay's about 5'10", I'm 5'7". He probably had me by 25 pounds. And, you know, I was a little bit tighter than he was, but not enough to make the difference. So it was a fair decision. So, and I have no regrets. So when I retired, people, do you have any regrets? I'm like, not at all. So I did everything I set out to do and had a blast doing it. I got to travel to like 66 countries and every state, and for 15 years I lived my dream, man. So I had a blast. So. Any more questions, guys?
I can say a few words. You better watch out if I get going. No, but and that's a little bit what I want to talk about. Is that you know, I moved here in 2012 and I started riding motocross. So within very short, maybe a month or two, I was riding together with one of the best in this country. He's, you know, and he's been, you know, so he was my riding buddy since then, you know, for 10 years now. And what I want to say with that is, I was new to the sport. I didn't know anything, and I didn't know anything about Texas. I didn't know anything about Plano, Allen, or McKinney, or anything at all. But just within a couple of months, you know, I was riding with him. And, you know, of course, with that, it's a little bit like Branch training next to Ronnie Coleman. So then maybe we have around 200 athletes, professional athletes around the world, and we have a lot of people in our community here when it comes to Gasp and Better Bodies. And when they come here and visit, or anybody visits, you know, and I talk to them out here in destination, I point at the door and say, like, this is an imaginary door, you know, and this imaginary door is only there to keep the sound out. It takes a while for them to get it. You know, like they want to come in, they want to talk, you know, they want to, you know, talk about life or business or philosophy, or you know, like they want to be on board, or they want to do something together. But too many of these people, they never go through the imaginary door. For some reason, this imaginary door is like real for them. Like they stand on the outside, they don't say anything, and they wait for stuff to happen by itself. And and it seems to be like a common trait that instinctively happens to a lot of people that I meet, and I meet a lot of people around the world, you know. So something that we need to think about is how can we shorten this distance, you know, because you know, let's say they're out here coasting for a month or two, or maybe they coast forever and they never come in, you know. So I think whatever you want to do in life, make sure that you go through the imaginary door, step in, and make sure that you surround yourself a little bit like these gentlemen are perfectly good example on. They have, you know, they've been around successful people and learn from them and being receptive of their own self in that context, and then by doing that, elevate them in whatever they are doing. And it's the same thing I did with a little motocross example that I have. But this little motocross example is, of course, has nothing to do with money, and it has not, you know, nothing to do with my Gasp better bodies and my career in fitness. But at the same time, it has everything to do with it, because it's the philosophy of making stuff happen for yourself, whatever goal you have, whatever you want to do, you know, start thinking about going through the imaginary door and take the bull by the horn, take away your excuses, make shit happen, and then run with it. And I know it's easier said than done for me here, but that's the honest truth I can give. As it comes to empowerment, and I like to do empowerment because when I do empowerment together with you guys here today, you came out to this, you took time out of your day to come here. Then at the same time, I'm empowering myself. Yeah. So I'm kind of like it make sure that I continue to go through imaginary door for myself. So I'm not as scared anymore to go through the doors. And I think the sooner we do that in life, the more we get out of life, and our life becomes rich. Life is never going to be about money. We think that, okay, money and fame, that will make us happy, but it's the totality of going through those doors that will make, you know, a much richer life. Yes, and be diverse in life. There is nothing wrong with that. We can be bodybuilders during one period, and we can be basketball players another period, or we can ride bulls like, you know, or cutting horses like Branch is doing now, and also get his feet wet with car racing. It's, you know, it's good to be a little bit diverse.
Any of you guys working out here today? Yeah, that's what I like to see. Yeah, so thank you very much for opening your doors here, that imaginary door people can walk through. You know, so yeah, this is absolutely phenomenal facility. You don't need me to tell you that. You know, the atmosphere that Michael has created and everyone's created has just been absolutely phenomenal. And every time I sit down with these guys, I always take something away from it, you know, so I really appreciate you, Branch. I really appreciate you, Michael. You know, I remember, just digressing a little bit, I remember in 2009 when Branch and I went to prison. Remember that talk that you did at, where was it, Seattle? Yeah, Seattle. Yeah, 2009. And the people in this prison, you know, they're done hard things, you know. They were in there for life. They were in there for bad, you know, bad stuff. Yeah. And I remember Branch saying to everybody there, you know, he's like, you know, you think you're badass? You think you're badass for the things that you've done? Taking responsibility for your actions and evolving from them, that's being a badass, you know. If you being responsible for your kids, being responsible for your family. And that's always stuck by me. You know, being a badass isn't what we always think it is. It's like the whole totality. And, you know, just want you to leave here and just think about that, you know, and, you know, feeding yourself, sure, but what can you share and then feed with others, to others, to then further feed yourself? But one thing I was going to ask, in regards to t-shirts, Michael, do you know what's happening with that? You know, the t-shirts that we're going to give out? I think, because we don't have those all the sizes here, I think we're going to give a gift card, not a gift card, a number, token number or something, do you know?
Yeah.
We can find out.
Wasn't that part of the sign-up?
Yeah, so the first 20 people.
Yeah, I'm 100% well versed in the details, but I saw a list, and that will come with a voucher for that t-shirt. So to kind of like order through the system that we have. So you get an email about it, and then take care of it that way through our system. So it will be easy. Yes. So thank you so much, guys, for coming out, and appreciate all the questions and being here, allowing me and us to read our own book a little bit. At the same time, you know, you guys, you know, being here, you give me and us a lot of passion and purpose in what we're doing. So it feels really great, actually. So I really enjoy these moments with you guys, even if I'm not the speaker, you know. So thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. So if you guys want to go and get in a workout, get your pre-workout done, it'd be rude not to. Hit it hard. Find success in failure out there.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.